Our flipped math lesson today is called Breaking Apart for 3 and 4. We're going to break apart factors down into 3 and 4. What I would like for you to do now is on your next blank notebook page, label the top breaking apart 3 and 4. You can push pause if you need to. Label that. Once you're done with that, I want you to look at my example here. You can go ahead and pause. Copy this example down. I have 8 times 4. What you may not know is what 8 times 4 is. But I can almost guarantee that what you do know is what 8 times 2 is. If this right here is 8 times 2, most of you already know that answer. 2 8s equal 16. If that in purple is 8 times 2, then I bet you could tell me right here we have another 8, and there are 2 columns of that. And I know that you can tell me again that 8 times 2 is 16. Because I may not know what 8 times 4 is. I may not know what this is, but I do know that I can break the 4 apart. See how I had 4 in each row? I can break my columns down into 2 columns because I know that 8 times 2 and 8 times 2 is the same as 8 times 4. So what I want you to write down in your notebook right now is I want you to write down, you should have this example drawn out, and you could have even drawn circles around it. But I want you to, at the bottom, I want you to write down 8 times 4 equals, meaning that it is the same as 8 times 2 plus 8 times 2. Now, if you're having trouble with that or you're not understanding that, look back up at my example. I had 4 in each row and I had 8 rows. I kept 8 rows, but I broke my columns into 2 instead of 4 because I knew 8 times 2 is 16 and 8 times 2 is 16. Now, all I have to do here to find my total is I need to take 16 and add it to my other 16, and when I solve that, it's going to equal 32. So what we're going to do today, ladies and gentlemen, is what is called the distributive property. I want you to go ahead and you can push pause if you need to, and you are going to write distributive property. You may already have an example up here somewhere, so you may have to put your distributive property down lower, whatever you need to do. Go ahead and push pause and copy down what the distributive property is, and we're going to do some more examples. The next example that I want to show you is, let's say I have 3 times 4. If I asked you that if I left the 3 the same, that would be 3 times what? Plus 3 times what? So instead of saying what is 3 times 4, if I break the 4 apart, what still makes up a 4? Now think about this as I'm having 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Think about that as having 4 rows just like I did over here. Remember I had 1, 2, 3, 4 rows? I broke that apart into 2 rows. So the 4 was broken into a 2 and a 2. So I want you to think about that the same way as you do the over here. 3 times 4 is going to be the same as 3 times, good, 2 and 3 times 2. So you might have some examples in your notebook like that. On your homework assignment today, you might have that example. The next thing that I want to go over with you is if I ask you what 5 times 4 equals, if you do not know that answer, most of you count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20. But if you don't know that, what I want you to do today is I want you to think in your head that 5 times to break that 4 apart, we're going to break that 4 apart into 5 times 2 plus 5 times 2. And so in your head or on a piece of paper, you broke this apart. 5 times 4. Ooh, I don't know 5 times 4, but I do know 5 times 2 is 10, and another 5 times 2 is 10. And then when I add those up, oh, I know 10 and 10 is 20. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do one last example. One last example. I want you to try the breakaway method, and I want you to solve 3 times 6. Go ahead and push pause and try that on your own. What I would like you to have done is to break apart the 6. You should have 3 times 3 and add it to 3 times 3 again, so that when you're done, I left the 3 alone. So what that means I'm doing for the last time, what that means I'm doing is I had 3 rows and there was 6 in each row. Oops. Let me back that up. So I had 3 rows and there was 6 in each row. There was 6 here and there was 6 here and that was 6 here. So instead of doing that 6 in each row, what I decided to do is I broke that 6 apart and broke it into a 3 and a 3. So now what that looks like is instead of 6 in each row, I still have 3 rows, but there's 3 and 3, 3 and 3, 3 and 3. So what that means is I did 3 rows of 3 right here, which is a 9, and I did 3 rows of 3 right here, which is a 9, and then don't forget to add them together. 9 plus 9 is 18. So ladies and gentlemen, 3 times 6 is 18. Many of you know your multiplication tables, and so this seems very easy to you. But it's not just about the memorizing the multiplication tables, it's about understanding them, knowing why they work. So if I ask you to draw me an example, you should be able to draw me an array that looks like this and then show me how to split it apart and put it into number sentences. Practice right now on your own. I'm going to give you your last example. I want you to draw an array of 3 times 7. Draw an array of 3 times 7 in your notebook. And I want you to have an array, and then I want you to show me how you broke that apart and what your new number sentences would be. Remember, you can go back and look at any of my examples or any of your examples in your notebook. When you're done, bring that to Mrs. Johnston. I will check your work and give you your assignment if you're ready to go.